Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much again for tuning in to the Washoe County GOP podcast. And as some of you know, we're in the middle of a series called Meet Your Candidate. And today we are getting introduced to the fourth candidate in our awesome long list of conservatives that are running for office. And so today we have the pleasure of getting to know Graeme Reid. Graeme has been a Reno resident for 20 years. He originally hails from Scotland, so he's got that super attractive brogue accent going on. That's definitely, working for him. And he recently became involved with the school district as he has several children enrolled in our schools here. And so being a caring, responsible parent, started to watch the school board meetings and participate online and kind of see the things that are going on in the school district. And so that prompted him to want to look a little bit further into things. And now he is running for school board at large candidate District F. Is that right, Graeme? It's F?
Yep, District F. It's a very large district. It goes all the way from Virginia foothills all the way to the Oregon border. It essentially covers, it's everything to the east of Virginia Street. So it covers DeMonte Ranch, Virginia foothills, Double Diamond, Hidden Valley area around Worcester High School, in that portion, between the freeway, sort of a triangular piece between the freeway and Virginia Street up to the river. Then it cuts across and goes up through Sparks, Outer Sparks, up to Gerlach, and all the way up.
Wow, you are like a living, breathing map. So you've really got that nailed down. That's a big area. So,
yeah, it covers. So my district covers portions of District B and District C, which are also up for election.
Correct. And those folks are Colleen.
Yeah, Colleen is running in District B. And Melanie Sutton is running in District C. So my district, I think, covers all of Colleen's district, and it covers most of Melanie's district. There's an area that Melanie has, which is North Valleys, Stead, Cold Springs, Golden Valley, Panther Valley. I don't have that area for some reason. That area is chopped out. It's the line's drawn on. It's based on population. The other at-large district is much smaller geographically, but the amount of people is about the same.
I see. Okay, excellent. All right. And we hope to have Colleen and Melanie on soon as well, so that we can kind of let everybody, see the whole group that are running for school board. There are three folks who are running. So Graeme, can you share with us a little bit about you personally? Just kind of who you are, what you like about Reno, maybe your hobbies, and why you've decided to run for school board.
That's a lot of questions in there.
It is. 3 in 1. Take your time.
Yeah, I'm originally from Scotland. I've been living in Reno for 20 years. I've been a lawyer for 32 years, a long time. I currently run my own practice right here. Initially, I moved to Reno. My ex-wife moved to Reno with my daughter, and I followed them here. And I've been here ever since. I have a new family now with 3 young kids. All 4 of my kids will do their education in Washoe County. My oldest daughter is already finished. I have 2 boys in there right now, and my youngest daughter is 4. She'll be following in their footsteps next year. Reno, what do I do in Reno? Well, I love the weather.
Okay.
And I love the outdoors. The great outdoors is fantastic. I'm a skier. I play golf. So it's a great spot for all those things, all those activities.
Absolutely, for sure. We hear that so much of the time. So that is very cool that you are extremely, invested in the Washoe County School District, since all 4 of your littles are going through it. And so that probably played a little bit of a role in why you have decided to step forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a politician. I really have no interest in getting involved in politicians. It's a very dirty business. School board, some people don't think is politics, but certainly, I don't know how it used to be, but it certainly is now. And I came to this path after seeing what my kids were getting taught in school during 2020 shutdowns for COVID, and started to do some research just to find out what it is.
Yes.
And I was not particularly happy with what I found, and as a result, I'm now running for school board. It seems like they have fallen off the rails, and they need to be nudged back onto the rails of common sense.
Agreed. And I think that's so true, because you just hear that as you talk to people on the street, and that many parents will say, once I started having my kiddo do online learning and hybrid school, that's when I saw all this strange stuff coming home. And that has really alarmed a lot of parents. And so here we are trying to figure out how to come alongside in a helpful, supportive way, and to get the cart upright on the tracks. And it's very vital that we do that. There is no time to waste. I feel so. I'm really excited about your campaign, Graeme. So Graeme, I've been hearing some incidents at a couple of different high schools, and I am no expert, so I'm just going on what I am hearing in the community, but particularly North Valley's High and Reid High, that there have been an increase in behavioral problems there, including students actually assaulting teachers, and apparently, more fights and a lot of drug use during school. And those are things that have been, been filmed on camera. I mean, I'm not making a story up here. I have no reason to do that. So I understand that these schools are using something called a restorative justice plan that the county is implementing. Can you kind of help us understand what a restorative justice plan is?
Yeah, so I think it's restorative discipline. Restorative justice perhaps is a different term for it. Restorative discipline is what I'm familiar with.
Okay.
What I have learned that they are putting into practice here. Now, the vast majority of these types of programs, in my opinion, the public doesn't know. They have no idea what's going on. This is stuff that's been done by the board because nobody pays attention.
Right.
Far left activists have taken over the school board in Washoe County, all over Nevada and all over the country, and they have all the little pet projects now in place. And the public is slowly but surely figuring out, or is in different stages of figuring out exactly what's going on. So I'm not privy. I mean, I'm not at the schools. My kids are not in high school yet. They're still in elementary school, so the disciplinary issues are not as egregious. So my information is mainly anecdotal, but there's a lot of it. I've talked to a lot of different people, and one example was during finals before the summer break. I believe it was at Sparks High School, where somebody set a fire in a bathroom during finals. So of course you had to cancel the finals, clear the school, and reconvene on a Saturday. And I've heard that there's a lot of other issues with discipline. There's discipline issues, there's attendance issues, there's substance use issues, the violence issues as well. Again, I'm not privy to all the details. My strong suspicion is that because the folks at the top do not want anything bad coming out about their pet projects, that the information is being suppressed. And that's what I can tell by speaking to teachers on the ground, that the discipline problem in high school is significantly worse than we can imagine. And the restorative discipline, that's a theory that stems from critical race theory, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
And it essentially doesn't treat all children the same. We don't have a flat line disciplinary standard. It varies depending on the color of your skin. The basic theory being, if kids are acting out, that it's not their fault. It's the fault of some other factor. Therefore, we have to be nice to them. We have to pander to them. They hit a teacher. You go to the principal's office. They come back half an hour later with a bag of chips, and if they apologize to the teacher, it's all okay.
Right, because somehow maybe in a previous generation, our people group injured your people group.
Well, yeah, that's one of the foundational principles of critical race theory, is that there are oppressors and oppressed. Now, no doubt in America, there was classes of people who were oppressed in the past.
Yes.
That's not the case anymore. Those days are long gone.
Yes.
This all surfaced during the Trump presidency.
Yes.
And I still have a hard time believing that we've gotten into this situation as well, where essentially race is being used as a way to divide again.
Yes, for sure. And it's been an ongoing tool for division in our country for many years. So, okay. So
just to speak about that point for a second.
Sure.
You're absolutely right. So the big philosophical issue that's ongoing in the world right now is between the globalists,
yes,
and the people who are more traditional and believe in countries and borders. Yes. That's what's ongoing right now.
Yes.
And America, of course, is the big one. It's the tough nut to crack. And folks who are activists, they know. And I'm not the first person to say this. America is you can't beat it from the outside. It's very geographically remote. It's very large. It's very wealthy. It's got a big military. It's got 2 coastlines. You can't beat America from the outside. It's not going to happen. But you can, if the goal is to crack America apart, how do you do it? You do it from the inside. So the folks that are trying to do this, they've taken over almost all media. They're now trying to get at our children through schools. It's a very sophisticated and clever plan.
Well, Graeme, I just feel like saying hail to Graeme Reid, because I didn't know you were going to go down that direction, but I certainly agree with you. And if I could tie that right back into restorative discipline, when you talk about globalists versus patriots, okay, in any nation, a person that just loves their nation and family and prosperity for their family, freedom, liberty, that kind of stuff, versus a globalist who is an elite who makes a ton of money through manipulating markets and so on. There's that struggle going on across the world. But what are we teaching a child at Washoe County School District if we say, hey, you just hit a teacher, but your color is a certain color, and we're going to put you right back into the classroom because your grandfather was maligned by someone our color, white. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it's completely inappropriate and it doesn't work.
What do they learn? It doesn't work. So
of course it doesn't work. And it's so there's two types of people who are pushing it. There's those who know exactly what they're doing and know exactly what the purpose is of this type of stuff. And then there's those that just go along with all the woke nonsense, rainbows and unicorns, and they think everything is great and they don't see the bigger picture as to what's ongoing. The purpose is to create division. And in America, the chosen vehicle for creating chaos is race, because they know that in America, even though I guess post Donald Trump running, we were living in this world where we wanted to be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin.
Right.
But
right.
Certainly my experience of first coming to America is that everybody cares about the color of their skin. They talk about the color of their skin. It's a huge cultural factor in America. I think it's terrible. I wish we could get away from it. But because it's such a divisive issue, some folks have picked up on that, and they're using race as the vehicle to create division, which will thereafter create chaos. And the theory is that they can create their whole new social order out of the chaos that will be created. That's the big picture that's ongoing. The small picture is, yes, they are using restorative discipline in schools here, and it's an absolute disaster. My opinion is the statistics are not making it to the surface, so the public is not getting informed. If you talk to parents and teachers, you'll hear how bad it is in schools.
Right, and we know that our teachers are leaving, and I forget the number, but wasn't it like 1,100 openings in Washoe County for teachers?
I don't think it's that high in Washoe County. I think that figure was from Clark County.
Okay.
In Washoe County, it's significantly less than that. I believe there's maybe less than 200 openings currently.
Okay. That sounds right. They have 6 times the amount of students that we do, so I'm confusing my counties.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
with that county too. So
yeah, Clark County is much bigger, and of course, so the reason is, or the question is why are we in this situation? Why are we in this situation where we don't have enough teachers?
yes.
Well, there was an interesting article in the Review Journal from Las Vegas a few weeks ago. It was an opinion piece. Didn't say who wrote it. It was just by the editorial board.
Okay.
And they were theorizing that one of the reasons that I hadn't previously thought about was that because of the again, this is another issue. Because of the increased amount of money in public education, what they've done is they've expanded the amount of positions. Therefore, that's one of the big reasons that is one of the reasons, a contributing factor to the fact that there are more teachers needed in the schools, is that they've created new positions.
Okay, well, that's.
And of course, the other factor is teachers are leaving.
Yes.
And I guess we can discuss why, or my opinions on why teachers are leaving. And then there's the young teachers that are coming up. So the older teachers, in my opinion, you'll hear from the teachers union and other activists and folks on school boards that they're leaving because of COVID. That's absolute nonsense. Some of them maybe, or they're leaving because of money. No, that's nonsense as well. The money has never been great, so that's not the reason. And I have spoken to teachers that have left the school district for less money. Money is not the problem. It's the discipline issues are one of them.
Yes.
The fact that they're not given the tools to discipline children in their classes effectively, so the classes become unruly. You have all of the administrative burden that has been brought upon by the board's recent measures, things like the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, which is essentially the enforcement arm for critical race theory. That is now essentially the department that runs the school district. Everything is going to be run through that department. And that creates an administrative burden on teachers. A lot of teachers, well, some of the teachers will agree with it. That's fine. Some of the teachers don't agree with it. And I think more of them don't agree with it and don't appreciate the additional administrative burden that it brings.
Right.
You have the massive data collection that now falls on the teacher's shoulders.
Exactly.
Those are the reasons that teachers are leaving, because of that increased burden.
Yes.
And the blatant politicization to the left of public education. That's why teachers are leaving. The presumption is that, oh, everybody should agree with this stuff because isn't it so wonderful? Well, no, it's not wonderful. It needs to be kept out of school. If the social justice activists want to create their own social justice country day private school, that's totally fine. It's a free country. Go ahead and do that. Teach kids whatever you want. You can if parents want that for their kids, go for it. But the vast majority of parents, I believe, including Democrats, sensible Democrats, do not want that for their children.
Of course.
They're being lied to.
Yes, I'm so glad that we're really going hard on this because, you know, at the top of this, I introduced you as a conservative candidate, and I don't want to mismark you because, first of all, you know, I kind of tend to think you're more in the middle, kind of a moderate type of person along the political lines. But this issue is not partisan. This is the education of your kiddos. And I just want everybody to know that the reason why we're 49th and 50th year after year after year after year after year is because there is a broken system in place that has apparently an intention of not improving. And it's either intentional and purposeful, or it's through a complete and utter lack of competence up at the top layers. And so we know that there's so much money up at the top layers of the administration positions in Washoe County. And then, so we have a focus problem there. Okay, and then we have a focus problem with the CRT. If this equity department is the strainer for all the academics to flow through CRT, so that CRT is embedded in the different subjects that are coming through, then the focus is CRT. So parents, the focus in all subjects now has CRT sprinkled through it. And CRT, as Graeme so eloquently put it, focuses on race, saying this race was bad to this race owes this race money, you know, and so these are things that have been settled. We have President Obama was an African-American president. We have African-American descended folks who serve in Congress and in the Senate and are entrepreneurs and who thrive. And so that wouldn't have happened if we didn't create, you know, if we didn't work hard in this country to create a more even playing field so that everybody could thrive. And that's what America is about, is equal opportunity. But now for some reason, there's a manipulation taking place all across the country in schools called CRT. And another extension of it is this socio-emotional learning business as well. So there's this two-prong, honestly, attack on our kids to remove academics as the main priority. That is why we're always 49th and 50th, where we've shifted our focus in recent years. I understand it began in Obama's term with the core, I'm spacing. Common Core. So that was a number of years ago, but like you said, Graeme, it's your intention to bring back the academic basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get the focus back onto academics. What school is supposed to be doing? It's supposed to be educating our children. It's not supposed to be indoctrinating our children in any political beliefs. Age appropriately, as in later in high school, children can learn about the different political theories, which is what ultimately critical race theory is. It's a disputed political theory. So why on earth are we teaching that to our children as fact? It's outrageous. And of course, it's not just critical race theory. It's critical theory is what the change has been. We're getting away from critical thinking, and it's now critical theory. Critical theory is an educational technique that hails from Germany in the 1920s or 30s. And it involves an emotional response from the intended recipient. So that in our case, children, they're using emotions, and they're changing the way things are taught to get children to believe a particular narrative. Mm-hmm. Social and emotional learning. Again, it's a very sophisticated operation that we're up against. Social and emotional learning started off way back decades ago as something that was wholesome. Because of course, who could disagree with social and emotional learning?
Right.
And of course, you want your children to be socially adapt and be in tune with their emotions, and a lot of that is just spending time with other people. You will do that, but what it has become is some people say it's the precursor to critical race theory, and they're absolutely correct. That's exactly what it is. It's not just critical race theory, though. You could insert whatever you like in there. You have critical gender theory, critical wealth theory, critical climate theory. And you could teach in a certain way to condition children to be more accepting of these principles as they age through the system. So as the ultimate goal being that they want to create their little social justice warriors, and this is how you do it, by conditioning minds through school. So social and emotional learning it's a form of conditioning children to believe or to be more accepting of diversity, equity, and inclusion principles as they age through the school system. So yeah,
Right. So
it's sophisticated.
yeah, it's like a social reconstruct. So we're laying the foundation through SEL and CRT to have a different structure in the United States, a different way of relating to one another that is chaotic.
It's a form of social engineering. Yeah, they want the people at the very top that understand what they're doing is they want to re-engineer the country to think a different way. They want to completely change America.
And I mean, if we just pause and we think analytically about, what makes a society function best? What makes a society thrive? Well, I would think one of the key concepts would be unity of purpose and unity of loyalty to our ideals, loyalty to our Constitution, and those ideas that formed our nation. I mean, those ideas that formed our nation helped us be the #1 thriving nation for many years. And so those were ideas founded on truth, on prosperity for people being able to protect themselves with the Second Amendment and so on, right? I'm referring to the Bill of Rights, but that Constitution has been, it's been attempted to emulate by other countries, have wanted to have a constitution similar to ours, but ours is so unique with its separation of powers that it really was created to squash corruption as much as possible. And so, I'm kind of getting in the weeds a little bit, but my point is that a thriving society is not one that is engineered to breed chaos and to breed hate between the races. We are an immigrant nation, obviously. And so, of course, we have that wonderful, lovely, fantastic flavor of all these wonderful people coming in. But we want those people to fully, completely embrace the ideals of our Constitution, which is, embedded in freedom, okay? And, goodwill toward others. And so this whole thing of the race baiting, it's only going to be a problem. And then, like you said, we all need to do a better job of getting out the news of what's being taught in Washoe County, that the whole majority idea that everything's filtered through is anti-American. And it's just anti-people. It's unity. There's no brethren. There's no your common man, your fellow man. Oh no, he's another color. Oh, his people 4 generations back did something maybe to my people. Well, I mean, maybe not. How do you know? It's basically, it's totally not factual. If you were to drive it down, you have no idea when you go into McDonald's and maybe you see somebody do something rude to a worker in McDonald's and they are a certain color of skin. You cannot heap history grievances on the person who's doing wrong to the little person working at the counter in McDonald's. No, that's a situation that's happening right there. And each individual is responsible for their actions and responses. People are responsible for themselves. I'm not going to take on what somebody may or may not have done 4 generations ago in my family. How ridiculous.
I mean, it's an absolutely ridiculous philosophy. Yet we're living in a world right now where there's a lot of people who believe that. And there's a lot of people who believe the propaganda and believe that they're doing the right thing, including on our school board. You've essentially got some people that I'm pretty sure know exactly what they're doing. And then you've got the other suckers that are just following along in their footsteps. So
right.
There's a variety of different mindsets
Yes.
and people's interpretation of what's going on. And of course, the word equity, which it's a communist foundational principle, equity means the same. It's not. It's the direct opposite of equality. So essentially, what people do, they go around and they look at outcomes. For example, let's look at the color of the skin of everybody sitting on the board of a certain company. Oh, look, they've all got white skin. That means there must be racism. I don't agree with that. That's the foundational flaw with it. That does not mean there's racism.
Exactly. I mean, you're pulling from, you pull from a pool, people that you know, people that are qualified. And if people of other different colors of skin are in that network, well, then they're going to be in that pool that they're pulled from. If they're not in the network, I mean, I can't speak to why they might not be in that network.
I mean, I guess it is possible that there are people who are racists and that there are racist hiring practices ongoing. But we've had laws for decades now that if you believe that is the case, you can litigate it. But now we're moving into a whole new world that we're going to look at the outcome. And of course, one of the first things I realized when I came to America is that Americans love to put people into groups. The whole myth about judging people by their character, it's a myth. And it's the people on the left that do this. They love to put people into their victim groups. And then those victim groups become activists, and they start their political organizations. And I truly think, I'm not saying there are no problems in America. There obviously are, and there are people who have been discriminated against in the past and will be discriminated against now. There are people who are racists. Yes. I'm sure there are some bad police officers.
Yes.
But the way out of it is not doing what we're doing right now, which is essentially going back to it's because of the color of our skin. It absolutely is not. If we want to talk about poverty, I can quite happily analyze it along terms of poverty, but it's not to do with the color of your skin.
Right. Okay, for sure. All right. Well, let's move on to something related to what we're talking about.
Yeah, we've gotten a bit beyond just school. But of course, the school district, what we're seeing in the school district is a symptom of what is going on in the larger struggle.
Yes, for sure. And we, as parents, want to just hone in, bring the focus way back over into the middle. The pendulum has gone so far out to ideology and activism and this whole political restructuring of our society. And as parents know, it's not Democrat, it's not Republican. I want my child to get grounded in academics. I want my child to be able to think critically, have a mastery of English, and then maybe other languages after that. That is the concern of most parents, because they know that education is tied to opportunity. So recently, there was an article. Let me get to my notes here. A reporter asked one of the current school board trustees, her name is Ellen Minetto, a question, and they were asking her about why are parents coming out to school boards and why are they so outraged? Okay, I'm paraphrasing the question that she was asked. And then her answer is, quote, "I think it's because they are afraid of change, afraid of the future." End quote. Okay, so do you think that that's what parents are afraid of, Graeme?
No, that's absolute nonsense. So with the board proceedings, you have to kind of understand what the dynamic is, and this is one of the reasons that I don't go personally. Number one, I'm not on the school board, and I'll be respectful. I'll let them do their thing. There have been an awful lot of parents that have gone, and it's crossed my mind. I've watched them online. Sometimes I send in my written comments, but I see how the board works.
Yes.
So you've got a couple of far left activists on there. You've got 3 or 4 others that just follow along with them like puppies every single time. And then you've got one who's on the right of the political spectrum. The folks on the left have figured out that while they have to let parents speak, they don't have to listen to them. And you can see from the board, they just do whatever they want. Whatever they want, whatever that will make them look good, whatever that pushes their agenda, they'll do. Whatever that repays the people who have donated to them, teachers unions, all the other different teaching type of unions, administrator unions, principal unions, construction unions.
Yeah, corruption.
Look at the money flow. Corruption, absolutely. Corruption, plain and simple. Yes. They're the ones who are going to keep the money flow going. So parents, of course, were upset with a couple of different big ticket items: the COVID shutdowns, masking, the bastardization of the sex ed program, the ridiculous email that the previous superintendent, Kristen McNeil, sent out on January 6th, espousing her political opinions, disguised as or masquerading as, this is how everybody feels. No, it's not, Kristen.
Yeah.
And she obviously had to do some backpedaling on that.
Sure.
She never apologized. She just essentially dug herself a bigger hole. And as a result, ultimately, she ended up retiring.
Exactly.
She never recovered from that. And
she was the one that made the comment that there should be 67,000 social justice warriors, because that's how many students we have in the county. I'm sorry, but Miss Kristen, that is not my ambition for my child. I want my child to graduate with honors.
Exactly.
Academics.
The whole, obviously everybody has their own political views, and as you become an adult, your views may change. They may stay the same. They may get more extreme. They may get less extreme. But the bottom line is, with school, particularly public school, it has to be neutral. You have to be able to appeal to everybody. I'm not saying that people on the far right should be able to bring in anything, or the people on the far left. No, you keep all of your opinions out of school.
Yes, out.
We have that big, bold lines, and you can, as I say, you can believe whatever you want, but it needs to be neutral at school. And the way it has gone in the past few years is that line has been grayed, and teachers have been given tacit permission to cross that line. And you'll probably remember the discussions of during the Black Lives Matter riots that we had in 2020. Again, in my opinion, that was nothing to do with race. That was all about Donald Trump. These were anti-Donald Trump movements. It's nothing to do with race at all. It's all pure fiction. And we had some on the board who wanted teachers' permission to bring Black Lives Matter paraphernalia to schools. That's absolutely outrageous. Whether you agree with Black Lives Matter or not is not the issue. The issue is, what is Black Lives Matter? It's a political agitation group. Yes. Therefore, it's not appropriate for school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you took a poli-sci class in college, okay, I could, of course, that's relevant to bring in these, to educate people on what these activist groups represent, what are their outcomes.
As a
college.
This is a theory, and this is what these people believe.
Yes.
But what they want to do is teach it as fact. Like, this is true. This is what everybody believes.
And almost to recruit, agreement along those ideological lines. And again, that is not what your foundational education should be in. That is for later on, when you are really kind of grounded in the basics and you can start thinking critically about things. But so Graeme, as like you just mentioned, the meetings. Okay, I've been to some of those meetings, and I will tell you, as a parent, I feel disdained upon. I feel that the board treats us with a smug attitude, and that
they don't care. They don't care. As I think I said already, they figured out that they have to let people talk, even though they're trying to crush that right now. Because it's disruptive. If they have to sit there for hours listening to parents bleeding their hearts out, I'm sure it's uncomfortable, and it wastes a lot of time. But I've had this conversation with many people who want me to go and speak on certain things, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it, because they're going to do it anyway. They don't care what you have to say. Right. And then, of course, some parents will cross the line. They'll get, abusive, or, use bad language, call names.
They're so frustrated. The parents are beyond.
Those are symptoms of frustrated parents.
They're being ignored. They're being put down. They feel completely, disenfranchised from the process that involves their children. So, how do you suggest, since the board seems to disregard us?
Let me just address that. They don't seem to disregard you. They absolutely do disregard you. They perceive all the complaining parents, and they've created the little aura with all the social justice warriors that work in almost all of our local media. They've turned us into the tin hat brigade, so they can just laugh at us, and because we don't believe what they believe, they just don't care. And they're all politicians. They're not all politicians, but they vote like politicians. They have the political power, and they're going to do it anyway. So the only thing we can do is replace everybody on the board. Well, we can leave Jeff Church, but the others, all of them need to be replaced, because they have created the situation that we're currently in.
Yes, they are perpetuating this climate that's anti-parent and hyper politicized.
Correct.
School.
No, there is currently no voice for parents except for Trustee Jeff Church. He's the only voice for parents. The others are only the voice for their causes.
And I just want to encourage people that are listening or watching, what have you, to really get involved, because this is a message that, like Graeme says, I think many parents do not know that this is going on.
No, they lie about it. They lie about it all the time. They lie. You see it in the press releases, in interviews given to the paper, the reporters in the newspapers. They lie about it as well. Parents are being lied to, which is why I say that your average Democrat parents, if they truly knew what was going on, they wouldn't want it either.
Oh, 100%.
It's funny because they say that the parents going to school boards and the folks on the right of the political spectrum it's just a small, loud minority. No, the folks on the far left that are pushing this stuff, that's the small, loud, obnoxious, bullying minority.
Amen.
And they're driving it, all the policy for school district.
The key is getting the word out. I want folks who understand what we're saying today to share this podcast out, share it to groups that you're affiliated with, maybe church groups or civic groups or hobby group, whatever, and then ask those people to share it, because we've got to spread this message. Like years ago, we should have spread it, but there's no time like the present to keep getting the message out, because you're right. The messaging from the county and other county departments is whitewashed. It's rosy colored washed, and you have to get involved and really hear and see what's going on, and you will be shocked. I mean, we have some nightmare things going on.
Yeah, it's a very sophisticated program that we're up against. Obviously, I'm the same as a lot of people. I never paid attention to school board. And I think in the past, very few people did.
Right.
Of course, the folks at the very top, they figured out, hey, nobody's paying attention to school board. We can take over all the school boards in the country, which is exactly what they did. And then we can change the curriculums and change the policies. And lo and behold, we've got in 10 years' time, we've got a whole army of social justice warriors, Democratic Party, Democratic Socialist voting folk that believe all that
stuff,
dogma.
Right.
And then it's not until they get to 30 or 40 years that they figure, 30 or 40 years old, that they figure out they've been lied to. Yes. And by that time, the game's over.
The game's over.
They've been used. They're pawns.
They're being used for somebody else's plan to benefit somebody else. And so, I think the biggest thing for parents, I would just say, and I'm not a teacher, but I have volunteered in the classroom and I have been around children my entire career. But I would say the biggest thing, besides loving your child like the world dependent on it, and being there and listening to them and supporting them and correcting them when they're wrong and providing discipline, is to really read to them and really emphasize reading. Because reading and then journaling, when you journal, you are activating that analytical part in your brain. And writing isn't, maybe not every kid likes to write, but they could journal what they did that day, because that causes them to reflect and process and remember. But when you write critically, when you report on something and draw conclusions, you are firing all kinds of good parts of your brain. And that's why there is less and less writing going on. And in the school, I mean, it's strange. I think, because critical thinking is huge. If you cannot question what people are telling you and know how to find the facts, like Graeme's saying, when you hit about 30 or 40, you've had time to see how the world works. to see how other countries thrive or fail, or communities thrive and fail, how people thrive and fail if they don't have, guiding principles that they're living their life along. You see how things work, but when you're a child, you just accept what you're told because you trust your adults, and then your mind cleaves to those ideas, and you're kind of under that umbrella for many years. And we need a nation full of critical thinkers. We need a nation full of questioners who question authority every single time, and that research things. And is that true? And if it's true, does it benefit society? Does it benefit my family? Does it benefit my country? If it doesn't, it has to go. Well, shoot. Too much copy. Okay.
So put it this way: I've been involved with the school district in running as a candidate and just learning what's going on, and I am yet to turn over a rock and go, "Oh, that's good." It keeps getting worse. Gets worse. And of course, my opponents will say, "Oh, Graeme, he's a far right extremist, and he just wants to hurt our teachers and our students." It's like, look, that's utter nonsense. I want to free the teachers up to let them teach, because that's not what they're doing right now. Well, okay, sorry, that's a bit of a generalization. They're doing some teaching, obviously.
They're doing teaching, but they're getting bogged down with data harvesting. They have to data collect.
We've made their teaching job much more difficult by all the additional stuff that they have to do. And as a result, some of the teachers with enough years in, they're just retiring. And I again, anecdotal story. As one journalist pointed out, my stories were all anecdotal. Okay, well, whatever. I don't have access to hard data from schools. I talk to people. So I talked to one teacher at the gym, older teacher, but she wasn't old.
Okay.
And she was a Democrat, and she had just had enough. She'd had enough of all the new nonsense that was in the schools. Yeah. And it was funny. A few years ago, I was at a parent-teacher conference with my youngest son with his kindergarten teacher. And so he's in third grade now, so say 3 years ago. And she said to me, "Yeah, I really try to teach more of the traditional type and stay away from all the new stuff that's being brought into the curriculum." And I sat there and I heard her say it, and I had no idea what she was talking about, none at all. Now I know exactly what she was talking about.
These poor teachers, I feel for them, and I certainly don't blame them for getting out early. And I don't, I feel for them because that's not what they want, but they're doing that because their hands are tied behind their backs. They never signed up to teach, Black Lives Matters. Like my son's high school, they told him in his civics class, we're going to be focusing on Black Lives Matters and for US civics, and so the teachers that don't buy into that want to, stick to that core curriculum, it's uncomfortable, and it bogs them down from teaching. Yeah, and they know they should be teaching.
There's a lot of teachers that are just living in fear.
Oh yeah.
Fear. And I tell you what it is, your far left activists, they talk about systemic racism.
All right.
You know what? There may be instances of racism in certain organizations. Is it systemic in the country in 2022 or from 2016 onwards? Absolutely not. It's complete and utter falseness. Mm-hmm. They what they do is they look at the outcome and then presume back that then there must be a discriminatory process in place. That's not correct. There's lots of other factors that go into how a board on a company is made up, for example.
Yeah. With that, I feel like I just want to say it is hard work and determination, okay, and preparation and practice and skill learning that gets you where you want to go. And when you have virtue, okay, when you treat people with respect and care, there is a harmony that is going to come in. At some point, you're going to meet the right people. You're going to have that opportunity. Opportunity comes to those who work, not handed to it because of your skin color. That like you said, that's not really how things work. That's not really reality.
So I was at a continual legal education seminar. It was at the end of last year. And there was a Black attorney who he was the city attorney for Las Vegas, And he flat out told everybody who was in attendance that he discriminates on the basis of people's skin color. He actively seeks out people that look like him. This is his exact words, people that look like him to work in his office. And I just sat there and everybody was clapping and cheering. Well, this is unbelievable that we're living in this world.
Going backwards. Totally going backwards. That's not
so these diversity, equity, and inclusion departments that are popping up in all corporations, yes, and we have it in our school district. That is systemic racism. You want to find it? That's what it is. That is your systemic racism. They have the administrative power now to punish people that do not follow their doctrines. That should be abolished immediately, as it should be in all corporations in the country. We already have laws that make discrimination based on color of skin, national origin, et cetera, gender.
To protect.
These are already illegal. We don't need all this new garbage to force a perceived equitable resolution. Because again, if once you open the genie, once you get the genie out of the bottle of equity, where does it stop? And the answer is it doesn't. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't.
Right, let's look at the NBA right now. So are we now going to say, okay, well, black people are 12% of the American population, so you can have one black player on your team, and you need to have one Asian person and 3 white people and some Hispanic people as well, and they can mix in and out. It's absolutely ridiculous. Essentially, and we don't want to talk about it, but I'll mention it. Okay. It's essentially communism. And it's yet again another try by folks on the left who are saying, well, if we just do it a little bit differently this time, it'll really work. No, it won't. It will not work. It will not work. We've tried it many times in society, in history, and it does not work.
What we have
because it goes against human nature. Even your tiny, like my daughter, okay, she's 4 now. Even when she was much smaller, 1.5, she would be like, this is mine, it's my toy. You know, that's human nature. If you have a political system that runs against that, it will never work. It will never work. Yeah. Now, again, does that mean that there aren't people in the country that are having a rough deal or having a rough go of things? Is there poverty? Of course there are, but this is not the way to resolve it. We don't resolve it by focusing on the color of people's skin and putting people into victim groups. But that's a very accepted practice in America. You know, women. That there's your first victim class, and then, you know, color of your skin victim classes based on an analysis of at the top. Well, because there's never been a female president in America, it must discriminate against women. No, that doesn't necessarily mean that. There's so many factors that go into it.
Right. For sure. And
we need to treat everybody needs to have the same opportunity.
Yes.
Equality of opportunity, equality of outcome. You're just it's a stepping stone to the end of your society.
So let's conclude with a couple more questions. You know,
actually about school. Let's talk about
it back to school. But I mean,
well, it's because you know, we can't. I can't have these discussions and just focus on school, because it's part of the school district. It's part of a much larger.
It's a broader fabric, and you're connecting all the ideas together. So I appreciate how your brain works. I mean, I get that for sure. I do.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
No. It's connected all the dots together. So now, so a couple of things. If you and Melanie and Colleen were able to get in and be on the board, how would you treat parents that come to school board meetings? Would it be a little more of a transparent?
So I think one of the yeah, I mean, absolutely. The parents need to be treated with respect. On the other hand, and a little bit of defense towards the board, the problem with the dynamic at school board meetings is it's not a question and answer session. It's public comment. And these are, you know, it's all set down in law as to how they have to work. Right. So parents, I think, have a misunderstanding that there is going to be some consideration for what they said and perhaps ask a question or two, but that's not the way that it works. Now, whether you could perhaps diffuse a situation by having a little bit of question and answer, I personally think you could. Is that something that you're not allowed to do? The answer is I don't know the answer to that question. But I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding about what public comment is. And you can see that our new superintendent, she's aware of that. And she's a savvy politician. Our current board president is just a flat out politician. And you can see how they've changed their they've changed their processes recently, because there's an election coming up and they're terrified that people that don't agree with them may have a voice on the board. Because right now there is no voice for parents. There is no voice for parents. There's a voice for all the unions and for the far left activists. That's what the voice is for. Parents are irrelevant. And that causes a lot of frustration. For example, when they tried to bring in the social justice curriculum for K through 5, even though the curriculum already has this stuff in it, it's very subtle, and folks on the left will say, well, give me an example. And so if you give them one example, it's never enough. They're like, oh, no, that's not what it is, or it's not that bad. It's like, yeah, because it's the whole picture you have to see. And I don't have access to what everybody's doing in every class. But
maybe we should have a mechanism where parents can see the curriculum,
absolutely,
for other grades, their grade, that it's all open.
So yeah, so I was saying, the current superintendent is going through a phase of having these town hall meetings where parents can go and actually have a bit of question and answer. But of course, they're only an hour long. It would need to be like 10 hours long for parents, all parents, to go and actually have questions answered. So again, it's a good idea. I think it's just pandering because there's an election coming up. For example, you'll notice there's no discussion about social justice right now. The SHARE program meetings have all been cancelled for the rest of the year. All the contentious stuff has gone quiet because they're politicians and they want to make sure I don't get on the board, that Colleen doesn't get on the board, and that Melanie doesn't get on the board. They're absolutely terrified that that's going to happen. Even if just one of us gets on the board, they're terrified of that.
I understand that an email was sent out recently that was very disparaging to the character of some of our school board candidates. So
yeah, me.
Oh, okay. And I haven't read the email. No one has sent it to me yet, but I that really makes me sad to hear that. And I hope that, those kinds of down and dirty, mudslinging and disparaging of people, really, I hope that backfires on whoever thought and planned and pulled the trigger on that email, because that's a very poor reflection on a Washoe County School District employee, if it was an employee that did that. To smear campaign all three of you, that just shows everybody who's paying attention that they're scared. They're desperate to do something, nasty like that. And so folks, we just want you to get involved with your school boards. We want you to really look at what your kids are learning. And if it's racist, which maybe that's what we'll title this episode, Systemic Racism equals SEL plus CRT. So, parents, if you can Google those terms and learn what it is and look for it.
It's the diversity, equity, and inclusion program. That's your systemic racism right there.
You can click on that link. I think it says diversity, inclusive, blah, blah, blah.
Oh yeah, they have a department, and I encourage everybody to go to that web page on the school district, washoeschools.net. Look for diversity, equity, and inclusion. You will find it all. It's all there. Some of this stuff that gave away their tactics has been removed, but there's still plenty on there. And it's essentially when you talk to some of the folks that believe this stuff, they think we've got two heads, or tinfoil hats on. They do not understand they don't understand where we're coming from, and they're also very condescending, arrogant, and dismissive of complaints, which as of a few years ago were the way most people thought, and it was the way that the system was run. So yeah, people really do need to be aware of how bad things actually are. Okay, so I say bad. If you're a far left activist, you probably think things are great here. They've created the system that they want, and it doesn't. You're right. From getting back to what you said at the start, the focus is not on academics. They don't care about that. They care about indoctrination.
That's right.
In a particular political narrative. That's what they want kids to believe. There's another aspect as well, which is particularly nasty, which is trying to create a division between children and their parents, which is again a communist tactic. You have to break up the family.
Yes, Marxism and communism. That's what they do, is they tear families apart, and that's how they shred the fabric of that society under that political system that they want to change. And we haven't touched on it, and I don't really want to go too much into it today because we're going to get out of time. But no. Maybe another show we could kind of devote to. I just want to put it out there for parents, and maybe you can kind of explain it, is that we are now data collecting, not just once, but throughout the year and subsequent years. We're harvesting data. The teachers of Washoe County have been taxed with this now, beyond the SCL and CRT. Now they're having to pick up the job of collecting and measuring data on your child. And the data has to do with your child's values. What is taught at home to them? What is their family life like? Do they ever think about the same sex? Do they ever have thoughts about same-sex attraction? This is in elementary school. Your kids' teachers are asking your kids questions about their personal, private life, how they're being raised at home, and what their own little private thoughts might be as little people.
Yeah, it's absolute madness what's going on, and how arrogant the people running the system are, that they think that this is appropriate. Stuff that children should speak with or speak about with their parents. And the school has no business whatsoever getting into these issues. And if you look at the statute, for the sex ed program in Nevada, it's literally one sentence that every school district has to create a program of education in sexual health, anatomy, and responsibility. That's it. And then there's a sub-paragraph about AIDS, which probably was added in the 80s. That's it. So how we get from that to what we have in the SHARE program, it's absolutely outrageous. But I mean, again, you take a step back. What are we dealing with? We're dealing with the LGBTQ plus lobby, the industrial complex.
Yes.
That's what it is. They have billions of dollars to push this through media. They want to get it into schools. It's just part of their agenda that they want to get in there. And somebody with common sense needs to step in and say, I'm sorry, in public schools, we're not doing this. You want to teach your kids that stuff at home? Go ahead. You want to set up your own social justice LGBTQ plus school? That's fine. The majority of the public does not agree with this stuff. And a lot of them are being lied to, so they don't think it's as bad as it actually is. But it needs to be stamped out. And then of course they will come back. They're vicious. They'll be like, well, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe.
Right. You're a fascist.
No, of course not. It's not. It has nothing to do with education.
You're an ultra MAGA.
You're ultra MAGA. Yeah. It has nothing to do with education. Now, if there are kids who are different in school, and I'm sure you remember there'll be kids that were different, and kids are trying to figure out the world.
Where they are,
and they get picked on, they get bullied. That is where I think the school system comes into play. We're not going to permit anybody to be bullied.
Absolutely.
But that is the interest that the school district has, to prevent bullying. Everybody gets the same opportunity to be treated with respect and educated at school.
It's actually simple.
We're not going to be introducing all sorts of concepts to young folks, and I believe it's particularly bad with young women that are now having to pander to the LGBTQ dogma to be cool in school. So it's a real problem, and we have ferocious opposition that are pushing on our children.
Right, and I want to say two things. One, just because you want your child to be grounded in how to think independently and how to inquire, have an inquiring mind, and how to look at facts and find data. You know, just because we as parents want our kids to grow this brain, that does not make us extremists, okay? Because you can be a libertarian, independent, Democrat, Republican, whatever, and want that for your child. It is a non-partisan issue, okay? It is a partisan issue to push gender curriculum, SEL, CRT, private gender transition plans to a child without telling the parent.
That's another issue we haven't even gotten to.
I mean, that'll just turn all of our hair gray.
The counseling and the psychologists. I mean, there's a lot of psychologists and counselors employed by our school district, and I know they're doing stuff that parents would not be happy about, and that they are doing things and not telling the parents. In my mind, that is absolutely outrageous. If it is, I don't want the government raising my child. I'm raising my child.
How dare they?
Exactly. I am consenting to my child to go to school, to be educated. You don't have the right to do anything. When my child's a minor, they're under my control. They're not under anybody at the school's control. I don't even think it's legal what they're doing. I honestly don't think it's legal, but they are doing it. They are doing it here. There's a sort of debate that's going on about in Washoe County right now about whether it's actually going on or not. Because of course that's the smoke screen. Of course it's going on.
We know it's going on.
It is going on. Well, a lot of people don't know. They're not sure because they're being lied to. It's absolutely going on. Because
there's articles written about that same gender plan at Clark County, and in Clark County, the teachers must inform the parent. Here in Washoe County, there's no such ordinance or rule in place. So this is what we're talking about when we're saying the school is coming in between you, the parent, and your child. When the school teacher says, oh, little Johnny, if you want to go by Sally, I'll call you Sally. I'll use that pronoun of she and her. And I'm not going to call your parents and let them know that you now want to be called she, her, Sally. I'm not, that's between you and me, because I'm your safe space. I'm your ally. Oh no, excuse me? And I said this on another show, so I'm going to say it quickly. But if you, back in the day, if a teacher, had concerns about a child, that this child, their student, was struggling and was having a problem in life, they would pick up the phone. They could call the parent and say,
it's the parent's problem. It's not the, it's not
you go to the parent
issue to deal with.
So
yeah, I mean, it's essentially, the bottom line is, do you want the government raising your children, or do you want to raise your children yourself? Are they your children, or are they the government's children? Communists, under a communist society, it's the government's children. They own the children. They own all the parts of the state, and so including the children. And I'm telling you, parents, it's your responsibility to raise your child. It's your privilege. It's your honor to raise that child. That's your moral duty to raise your child. And you need to get the government out of that process, because you are the one who has been ordained to raise that child. That's your legacy right there. Yeah, exactly. It's parents' responsibility to look after their children. Now, am I saying that all children have perfect home lives? No, of course not. Mm-hmm. Am I saying that strict discipline works with all children? No, of course not. I mean, I went to a high school that was in a pretty rough neighborhood, mm-hmm. and we had a lot of kids that were, so I guess you could say, from my perspective, they were badly behaved. They disrupted the classes. They would bully people. Because we used to have corporal punishment in those days. we would get belted with this big leather ball. I remember that, yeah. And the bad kids ultimately would get sent to the headmaster's office. They'd get sent to a separate class. Strict discipline works with the good kids. It doesn't necessarily work with the bad kids. If you have kids that their whole life is pain and misery and the poverty, violence, substance abuse issues at home, I agree, there's some really significant issues, and teachers are going to see that, and they have to deal with it. So I'm not saying that strict discipline will benefit everybody. Yes. There are certain situations in certain children that they're going to have to be handled in a different way. Right. I love that. Absolutely. Of course. I mean, we're applying intelligence, right? As we handle behavior. common sense, and
Common sense.
I really, as my personal philosophy on life, I don't need the government to come in and decide everything for me. I can do it myself.
It's not the right of the government. It's not the role of the government to do that. Okay. So, Graeme, how can folks support you specifically, Colleen, Melanie, if they want to support your campaign and see a change on the Washoe County School Board, what can they do?
Yeah, so my website is vote-reid.com. You can go there and there's a PayPal button on there. You can donate via that. Colleen and Melanie also have websites. I don't have their websites handy. They're both something simple like Westlake for School Board and Sutton for School Board, something like that, but I can't remember them exactly. But they also have the buttons. You can donate or you can give them a check. We all have on our websites an address that you can send checks to. We are running out of time though, so folks better move on. If you're
That's right. That's right.
We're being outraised, I would say, about 10-1, because the folks on the left are being very heavily financially supported by
woke corporations.
Woke corporations, virtue signaling corporations, teachers unions, all the other variety of unions, construction unions, the construction trades. So of course the construction trades know it's big business for them, big business, because they get tens of millions of dollars worth of contracts approved by the board.
Wow. I
whose bread you eat is whose song you sing.
Yes, that's the name of the game right there. And you know what? It's corrupt. And
so, you know, it's funny. So they all say, well, Graeme, you got $5,000 from Robert Beadles. You must be a crazy wacko. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Well, hold on a second. Beth Smith, who won in her primary in the second quarter, so April, May, June, she spent $82,000. So it's like, oh, so you're making a huge deal out of the fact that I got a $5,000 donation. And then there's absolutely nothing said about somebody spending $82,000 for a job that pays $700 a month. What's wrong with that picture?
Right? Where does all that money go? Because
where did all that money come from?
Where did it come from and where does it go? Because how much money does it, you know, when you donate on Graeme's site or Melanie's site, they need, I mean, gosh, sometimes it's anywhere between $6,000 and $20,000 to do these mass mailings of the glossy stuff that you get. I mean, it's expensive to do those mailings. So that's probably one of the primary places that a candidate is spending their donation money. But $80,000, Beth Smith needs for a flyer.
$82,000. And yesterday, I see my opponent. He has fixed billboards up around town. So again, you know, those run probably $3,000 a month each. Never mind, you know, preparing your artwork to go on there and getting it printed. So that's a significant financial waste, I would say. But it does show you that the folks on the far left, again, my opponent's not raising this money himself. It's not coming from people he knows. It's coming from the network of far left activists. That's where the money's coming from. And they know that school board is really important for them to continue their
control.
To continue to control and to continue to socially engineer. And I had the privilege of meeting Glenn Youngkin the other day. He was in Reno.
Oh, okay.
And so I had a quick chat with him about school board. Of course, we don't have a Glenn Youngkin as governor in Nevada. No. We've got Steve Sisolak, who is part of the problem.
He is in the network for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing will change. Nothing will change with and Nevada, you know, Nevada has Democrat-controlled governor, Democrat-controlled Senate, and all the legislatures. So it's it's a different environment here. Although Virginia was very blue, now it's not.
Right. So this house of cards can fall. And what it depends upon is keyboard warriors. That's one aspect of the people listening today need to spread the word. Start your own podcast. You know, just do a little research, invite on candidates and other folks who are, you know, have a lot of information that they can get out. And we want that ticket to go red because we do not want, we want to break up this network of corruption that manipulates the school system, and and then also just on other podcasts, takes away from services that the people want and desire and need, such as police and having a good plan to deal with our chronic homeless, which has just exploded in the last 2 years. And so we want people that are for the people, right? When you hear that term, we the people, that's not some crazy extremist MAGA movement. No, it's not. We the people is you and me, no matter what your party affiliation is. It's having a good, safe life for you and me and our kids and our grandkids. That is what we the people means. And don't listen to the press, because they just want to contort and distort for their agenda to benefit them.
Yes.
And we want us, our country, to benefit.
Our media in Reno is utterly atrocious. It's so biased. It's
one-sided.
Not really legitimately media anymore. It's just propaganda outlets for the far left. So that's very disappointing. But it obviously is effective because there's a lot of people who believe it. And one of the problems with the new teachers coming up, a lot of them go to the University of Nevada College of Education, and that is just a woke training college. You speak to some of those young people that come out.
Yeah.
And they don't even understand my complaints. They're so brainwashed. They
Absolutely.
don't understand any, and the folks that love to call themselves doctor, they have their advanced education degrees. It's what they have is a PhD in activism, far left activism. It's not education, it's activism.
Right. What do you produce with that? I mean, if I
social justice warriors. That's
social justice warriors.
Yep.
If I was a teacher, I would take an enormous amount of pride in helping to produce a child that knows right from wrong, first of all, and that has to do with virtue. And that should be taught at home, taught in the community, but that can also be supported in the school, but also just has a good high level grasp of reading and questioning the world, and like you do, just connecting concepts. And if you focus them on that cerebral, activity and grow their mind, not toward a certain ideology, but just to be able to think and discover the world for themselves, that is something I would be proud of as a teacher. Not that I churned out somebody who goes to rallies to push some ideology that's racist. That's racist.
It is racist, yeah.
So, anywho, well, thank you so much, Graeme, for coming on today and showing people that just because you care about school does not mean that you are an extreme MAGA fascist. I could go on and on with the name calling.
I think one of the important things that I'm sure is that the left has also figured out that they can manipulate language. They're changing the meaning of basic words, and they like to slander me with, "Oh, you're a far right extremist," when all they're doing is projecting, because that's what they are. They're far left extremists, and they do it all the time. You can see it on the media all the time. Everything that they're doing themselves is what they blame us for doing. Like, you use Donald Trump as a perfect example. Oh, Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. No, it was the folks on the left that were doing that.
Yes, who bought
but look how much play they got in the media with it. The media
is complicit.
Services. It was,
media is
and it's still ongoing to this day, and it was all made up. It's a complete and utter fabrication. They're the ones who are acting badly, and they blame folks on the right. And I'm not even that far right. I have no problem nowadays being called a conservative, but I think the vast majority of the population now are conservatives.
Well, I do too, and I as well probably would be thought of as a MAGA. I mean, okay, but I'm just
well, it's that again. They use the word MAGA as it's supposed to be a pejorative, but it's Make America Great.
America Great Again. Exactly.
It's not a bad thing.
We
Yes.
have to peel off all these layers of gunk that the media has thrown on us and that our liberal education has thrown on us. And if you don't have another pillar to support your upbringing besides a government controlled liberal, way out liberal school, if you don't have these other pillars to support your development, then you do get indoctrinated. And what are those other pillars? It could be your community, it could be your church, but other things that ground you so that you're not fully pulled away into this media set of lies and this school, And so our final thought, and this is me talking, not Graeme, I am saying that if you know what is going on in the schools and you are just beyond frustrated, you don't have to stay at a public school. We're going to put resources up on washogop.org, and we have been doing that through the social media channels. People can click on those and see how to join a micro school, or what they call a pod. And so those are just like wildfire growing across the country. In addition to something called a classical education. There's about 70,000 of those schools now. So they focus on academics, but you can get your kiddo out. And hopefully the school system will upright the cart with a Graeme and a Melanie and a Colleen, and at some point we could get back in. But if you feel like you need to pull your kids out, do it. It's not impossible. Beverly, I'm going to just, again, put the resources out there because I don't have everybody's name and email right off the top of my head, but that is an option. You have options besides Washoe County School District.
Yeah, there are other options, and I think that the way the school system is, the way that public education is going in America, it's not out with the realm of possibility that the whole system could implode within the next 5 years, because they've gone so far down the political indoctrination channel, and more parents are figuring it out. And so Washoe County School District, I think at its peak a few years ago, it had an enrollment of about 65,000. That's down now to 61,000. And the board will tell you, oh, that's because of COVID. Absolutely not because of COVID. It's because of everything else that's going on. I mean, there may be some people who left because of COVID, but that is not the majority. And if you go to all the private schools and charter schools in Reno, all of them, you'll find they're busy. They're packed because people are fleeing the public school system.
They have to.
The only reason the public school system enrollment hasn't gone down further is because of lack of opportunities. And homeschooling is not for everybody. If both parents work, which a lot of parents do, the pod system I think is very good. I have spoken with some parents who are doing that. I think that's a great option. Private schools and charter schools, you have to be very careful about what your reason is that you're leaving the public school system, because some of the private schools are as bad or worse than the public school system with all their woke indoctrination.
And
it depends.
It's sneaking into some of the charter schools as well. So you just have to be really involved or go the pod route. And again, that's just multiple families gathering their kids in one spot, and they sometimes hire a professional teacher.
Correct.
And that teacher runs that small school. And so that's what a micro school is. That's what a pod is.
Yeah.
And it may not be a credentialed teacher. Sometimes you have like a team of teachers that are professionals in different areas, or maybe they have a degree in a certain subject and they can teach those subjects because they have a degree in that area or whatever. So those are two scenarios that can be happening at a pod or a micro school.
Well, let me just drop in one last thing.
Please.
I mentioned my concern about the private schools and charter schools, and the parents have to be very careful because a lot of your activists have gotten into the academic book publishing houses. So your curriculums will already be modified before you even get them, and there'll be very little choice. But so my daughter goes to daycare. They've started in the daycares as well. They call it early childhood education. That's the catchphrase. And the staff at the daycare, they have to do continual education, and the continual education at my kids' daycare has now gotten to such an extent that they actually close for one day every couple of months. So there's a lot of parents that are inconvenienced right there. And I'll tell you this, but not during the whole COVID 2 years, my daughter's daycare was not closed a single day. Not a single day. They were amazing, open every single day.
Yeah.
Sometimes we had a COVID scare and the kids would have to be home for a few days. But the whole place, the whole facility was open. But now COVID is over and they're closing down occasionally because Washoe County Health Department is making them do their continual learning. And I said, can I see a list of what they're being required to do? And sure enough, critical race theory stuff is in there. Right now, you can pick and choose which ones you do. And some of them are quite good, nutrition was one that caught my attention as being quite good. But all that stuff is in there. And here's what's going to happen. As time goes along, they're going to make all these courses mandatory, and then they'll have all their woke indoctrination that will go in there for the preschool teachers. And that's how they're going to start getting your kids from age 2 months onwards. When they separate that bond between parents and children, get you into, these are private daycare centers, but they're essentially run by the government. The lady that runs the one that my kids go to said to me one day, she goes, Graeme, it's like I don't even run my own facility anymore. Washoe County Health District tells me everything I have to do. It's absolutely outrageous what's going on. And we need a complete overhaul of all government in America because of the types of folks that have been drawn towards running our country. We essentially have incompetent government throughout our country at all levels.
At all levels. Man, what a frightening fact. We just got to skate. We have to be hopeful and we have to be positive and we have to think according to solutions. So first
we have to replace the board. Absolutely essential.
We got to replace the board. Now, finally,
Washoe County commissioners, we have to make sure all the lefties are gone because they're destroying the place. Reno City Council, that may be a lost cause, but there needs to be a correction or we're on a collision course. And you can guarantee that other countries are not doing this stuff.
Oh no, they're not.
It's not happening in China. No, they're focusing hard on their science and technology while America is floundering
and completely distracted in this downward spiral of staring at their belly button.
It's a symptom. It's a sad symptom of a wealthy society, what we're going through right now. And the folks who are doing it they're squandering the wealth of the country. And you can, as you know, if you've got a bunch of money, you can squander it pretty fast, but it's hard to make it back. So all the gains that have been made, those can be squandered very quickly. And they are being squandered. And it's going to be a long road back. One very simple example, the current board spending money like there's no tomorrow. They just spent another couple of $1 million on some ridiculous app that nobody will use. Right. They spent $3.7 million a couple of weeks ago buying computers that they shouldn't have purchased. They're just, by the time I get on there, if I get on there, there'll be no money left because they'll have spent it all.
Right. Almost 1.4 billion with a B is the budget for Washoe County School District. And what do we get for that?
And a superintendent last night at her town hall, I wasn't there, but I had got the reports that she was saying that that's not enough. We need more money.
It's insanity.
Do not need more money.
It's total insanity.
She is one of the highest paid superintendents in America.
Okay. And for what do we get for that? We get
social engineering.
Yeah, social engineering to put them in between you and your kids so that your kids are supposed to be trusting their teacher, ally, safe space person more than they trust you, their parent. And we also get the added icing on the cake of being 50th or 49th in the nation academically. So we get nothing. We basically are abused. We are being abused by Washoe County School District.
Yeah, so our new superintendent, the process for retaining her, for hiring her was a complete scam. They basically engineered it so that they would get a person like her. Now, again, I'm not saying she's a bad person. She seems to be very personal. I haven't met her yet, but she seems very personable. She's obviously intelligent and well educated, and she works hard. However, She is a professional critical race theorist. Angela Taylor, our board president, she runs a company called Guardian Quest. What's Guardian Quest? It's a critical race theory consulting company. And they will tell you, well, I don't think Susan Enfield has addressed it yet, but Angela Taylor has been lying for years by saying it's not in our school district. Of course it is. That's what you do
for a
That's
living.
your thing. Why don't you just admit it and tell us why it's so great? But they can't do that because they know it's become toxic, and they prefer to lie about it and just hope that the public is so misinformed that they'll go along with it.
We're so busy, we're so preoccupied,
Exactly.
And, parents, I get it. I'm a working single
Yeah,
mom.
well, me too. I don't have time for all this nonsense.
Right,
but I get sucked into it. It's like we like you said, it's a over $1 billion going into education. Why on earth does your average person have to start getting involved? And the answer is because if you don't get involved, this is what happens. If people aren't paying attention. So we have to get more, we got to get more common sense on the board.
And parents, you can volunteer to be in your child's classroom. It's going to require a background check, and you might have to pay for that. But you need to be in that classroom. You need to be the eyes and the ears for your kiddo and other kiddos, and so that's what we can do. We can be a keyboard warrior and get the information out. And we can also contact these candidates to offer support, financial support or whatever. You can get several of these signs to support Graeme Reid and put them on your lawn, put them outside your business. If you want to do that, head down to the Washoe GOP office on South Virginia. Just Google that address. We're in a big strip mall down there. And you can get signs and just talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, just spread the word. We need you. This is the paradigm. We are the majority, whatever your party affiliation. Okay. People that love their country, want to protect their family, want the best for the kids. That's the majority. Okay. But yet we're in an underdog position because all the money is somehow now shifted to the left. All the woke corporations have the money. And so we're like this little group trying to spread information and trying to make sure all the parents know and all the people know what these policies are doing, how they're affecting our nation, pulling us down. And so which are like a little underdog, but we're really the majority, we need to know the facts, and then we need to stand up to change the situation. We need to be activists.
The majority of parents have no voice right now. And I'd encourage anybody who's listening to be very skeptical with anything you read in our local media, because they're either completely indoctrinated themselves and actually believe the nonsense that they publish, or they're just flat out lying. But there's an awful lot of it, and unfortunately, it's pretty much all of our media. You can see it, how they spin thing, and they use their fact checkers, which is essentially a way to editorialize. I did a survey with KUNR, and they fact checked me. Unfortunately for them, their fact checks actually made my points better than I was trying to make them myself. But that wasn't their goal. They were attempting to add their opinions to challenge my opinions. And of course, I have no ability to come back at that because it's no longer a live discussion. They've taken what I've written, and then they didn't change it, but they added their fact checks to it to try and make it seem less credible. So that's what they do. That's one of the tactics that they have. And I'm sure they learn that in journalism school. You got the at UNR, you've got the College of Education, which is atrocious. That needs to be completely changed. It's a political indoctrination body, and they are teaching our future teachers. And then you have the School of Journalism, another total joke of wokeness.
Right. I mean, journalists should be after the truth, whatever that ends up being, whatever. You don't go in with an agenda. Your agenda is to find facts. And then those facts speak to you, and you gather your conclusions from there. But I just want to wrap up our time today by saying, people, you can walk for Graeme Reid, meaning you can put little brochures on your neighbor's doors for Graeme to get the word out and maybe vouch for him, maybe put a little sticky note on every single little brochure that you put on a door and just say, I'm your neighbor. And if you want more info on Graeme, call me or walk on down. I really support this guy. So walk if Graeme, if you need calls made from your campaign, that might be something, or donate. But everyone, please get involved and please learn more for your own kiddos' sake. And so we really appreciate having you on today, Graeme. Thank you so much for the time that you've given us.
Yeah, and so much for the half an hour. That took us over an hour, I think.
Over an hour. It's like an hour and a half.
I'm just getting started.
Right? That's okay. That's we love your
Yeah.
passion and how invested you are. It really shows, and that you care so much and see the big picture, and your heart, you know, although it's in Scotland, you're sharing it with us, and you know, you care about the direction of our nation, and you want freedom to reign, not Marxism, not communism.
Oh yeah, I absolutely care about what happens in America. I agree with the basic concepts of freedom and liberty, and you know, those have become unbelievably, those have become terms that folks on the left just laugh at now. They think, oh, you're an extremist because you believe in freedom and liberty. Well, again, it's if you take their view of the world right now, they have freedom and liberty, and they're able to do all of the things that they're doing. But if they continue down that path, their freedom and liberty will be gone. And then suddenly they will become irrelevant, and they'll wonder how they got into that world. Yeah.
So let's close.
But anyway,
on that. Yeah, you know, take that in. Let that hit you. What Graeme just said. That once the government takes everything, education, your right to protect your family, which is your Second Amendment right to bear arms. And then they take away your wealth by taxing you. You know, once they take all these things, you have no more personal power. You cannot create that wealth that you want to create. You know, if you're in the set of the get along, you know, I go along to get along. I go along to make sure I'm getting paid, make sure I'm getting the benefits and the perks. That is not going to last forever, my friend. You are not on the side of truth and what is good. And that's going to have a consequence. I'm sorry to say it. I don't want you to have that consequence. I don't want bad for anybody, but there are certain laws that operate in the universe, and the woke dark nightmare that we're under is going to end. And if you're on the wrong side of that, it's not going to be fun.
No, it's not going to be fun. And you know, I think politically, I'm probably a libertarian. Mm-hmm. And as I've discovered, you know, my feeling is this, you know, hey, you do whatever you want. It's fine. I can do whatever I want. Just don't bother me. I won't bother you. But the problem with that, because one of the main tenets of liberalism, or classical liberalism, and libertarianism is tolerance. Tolerance. That's the soft underbelly of libertarianism. And your far left fascists, I'll say it, they figured that out, that people on the right are very tolerant, even though they like to pretend that we're not. We're very tolerant. Now my tolerance has been taken advantage of, and I really don't appreciate that.
No, it's
I do not appreciate being lied to. And when you were talking about the Second Amendment there, your ability to protect your family, mm-hmm. It goes beyond just physical force. It's also, I'm protecting my family by the way my children are educated. I don't want my children being manipulated by other people with a political agenda. I'm going to protect my children from that. And that's why a lot of parents are pulling their kids out of school.
Exactly.
They're protecting their children.
I can tell you my BFF, my best friend, pulled her son out of a high school because his attitude was really changing. And, you know, there's teenage angst and teenage rebellion and all that. But she felt it was coming from the school, and she was able to put him in a private school. And it's just been so much better since he's in a private school in Spanish Springs now. So, you know, nobody comes in between you and your kiddos. No way.
That's what they're doing.
No,
that's what they're trying to do. That's what they are doing. And yeah, that's the structure that they're building into school, and they're trying to normalize it as if this is just the way it should be. No, it's not the way it should be.
No, it's not.
Parents who can see it.
We're not putting up with that. You know, I know what you're saying about that, you know, it's a live and let live. And, you know, that's what we have been taught, you know, and just, you know, but this is the fruit of that. of being kind of lackadaisical and just trusting
Yeah.
that everything's okay. The school's got it.
Yeah.
Oh, they're taking
Yeah.
kiddos. Oh, they're doing this and that and this and that and that. And now they're doing this and this and this. Instead of just teaching the basics, they're like reaching into all these areas. And now we see what these areas are, and they're bad. They're bad for our kids. So we need to stand up. We need to get in our feelings, as as the songs say. We need to get up in our feelings of protection of our children, and we need to do something about it. And the first thing is to flip the board. That's the first thing. But
Absolutely, yeah.
meanwhile, pull your kids out until things straighten up. You can always put them back in, but you need to know that it's good in a safe place. Right now, it's not safe.
I went to all public schools myself, and 2 different public universities. So I'm an advocate for public education. I think it's a great concept.
Right.
But as I mentioned earlier, I think the way it's going in America, we're only a few years from it completely imploding, with parents on a mass scale doing something different.
And Graeme, it's already happening, because there are not hundreds, there are thousands of colleges that have closed all across the 50 states. My understanding is that they're closing because the students don't want to take on debt. That's a big part of it. They know that they're going to come out of there with a massive debt. And also that the students are finding that they can make a living, thank God, without a degree. That they can go into these other areas that don't require a degree, maybe like manufacturing or the trades, and they would rather go that route. And another reason why is because they know that what's being taught in the colleges, there is this wokeness intermixed in the different classes, and they don't really want to participate in that. It offends them. So there are many, many, many small colleges, and even some big ones that are closing. So it's exactly what you just said. That's the reaction. If you don't perform a valuable service, but instead you manipulate, people are eventually going to catch on and walk away from that, and they're going to do something different. So the school district should catch on and get on board with the parents and get back to basics. That's a good place.
Yep, absolutely.
Cinch it up.
Yep, get back to basics and get all the politics and politicians out of education.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Graeme. And we look forward to having you back on if you ever want to come back on our podcast.
Well, thanks, Michelle. Yeah. And again, you can find me at vote-reid.com. And I'm also on Twitter at Graeme Reid for School Board, and on Facebook, Graeme Reid for School Board. You can find me at those places.
Fantastic. And
thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And sorry I blabbed on for for so long.
No,
but these are they're sophisticated issues. And the people that want to simplify it are taking advantage of that. That's what they know that parents have a small bandwidth, so they because they're busy doing other things, so that they don't want to get you into the details. But those details are terrifying. They are,
you guys. And jump on Graeme's Twitter, because he has some pithy comments and he has some fun stuff.
I try to be polite and respectful as much as I can.
Oh, you are, but you're funny too. So visit Graeme and come back to our podcast in the future and learn more about other candidates that are running, and make sure that you vote on November 8th. Take your paper ballot fully completed and walk it into 9th Street, the registrar of voters office at 9th Street on voting day if you can, and hand that to them. Have them scan in your ballot and then ask to look at the monitor. And if that monitor says that you have voted more than one time, you need to call your sheriff and you need to say that there's been voter identity fraud, and fill out a report, because someone has voted for you and it wasn't you. And that's how we get ripped off during election time, and we're not having it. So that is the safest way for you to vote. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.